Hey guys, your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 82 for you guys today. So let's go into and dive into the first segment of the Combat Series this week. I'll be sharing my UFC 311 main event prediction between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. So, the first UFC pay-per-view to kick off 2025 is starting off with a banger for UFC 311, and we're on the road to a big collision course in the lightweight division with Islam Makhachev defending the lightweight title against Arman Tsarukyan in the main event of UFC 311. So this will be my fight prediction for the fight. But let's get into the storylines here. First storyline, will history repeat itself? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is not the first time that Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan have fought each other in a UFC octagon. The two respective fighters fought each other back in 2019. And both of these respective fighters are not the same caliber fighters. Both have evolved tremendously since then. But both of these respective fighters fought each other in 2019 when they were scratching and clawing to climb up the ranks of the lightweight division. Back in 2019, it was Islam Makhachev who defeated Arman Tsarukyan by unanimous decision in a 3-round fight. This time, the stakes are even higher. And it's going to be a 5-round championship fight with the lightweight title on the line. So I'm looking to see the improvements that both of these fighters will make. It's been 5.5 years since their first fight. So we're going to see what the adjustments that they make heading into this fight. And next storyline is, can Islam Makhachev continue his dominant reign as the lightweight champion? As Islam Makhachev has had a vice grip on the lightweight title for 2.5 years when he defeated Charles Oliveira for the title back in late 2022. This has established Islam Makhachev to become a top 3 pound-for-pound star, however you have your pound-for-pound rankings in the UFC, based off of what he's done as the lightweight champion. He's picked up some tremendous wins. Like I said, he defeated Charles Oliveira to win the title. He has 2 separate victories against Alexander Volkanovski, and he defeated Dustin Poirier in his latest title defense. Those 3 respective victories, or 4 respective victories, don't come. It's not easy to get those respective victories. So the fact that he's done that is tremendous. But we're going to see if Islam Makhachev can continue his dominant reign, if he's capable of successfully retaining the lightweight title against Arman Tsarukyan. And final storyline is, can Arman Tsarukyan capitalize on his biggest UFC opportunity up to date? Arman Tsarukyan has never been in a championship fight in his UFC career. We're going to be seeing if he could be the one to dethrone Islam Makhachev, because realistically, there's arguments that you could say that Charles Oliveira might be the one to dethrone Islam Makhachev and take the title away from him in a rematch, or there's only one more option in my opinion at lightweight, and that is Arman Tsarukyan. So he's climbed up the lightweight division with ease in recent memory. And Arman Tsarukyan has big victories against Ben Darish and Charles Oliveira. And this is his biggest opportunity up to date. So we're going to see if can Arman Tsarukyan cash in on the opportunity that presents itself with him getting his first title opportunity. And we're going to see if he could be the one to dethrone Islam Makhachev at the lightweight division. But enough of the storylines. Let's get into the tail of the tape here. Arman Tsarukyan, the challenger, has 22 victories, 3 losses to his resume. He has 9 victories coming away of knockout, 5 submission victories. Currently the number 1 ranked contender in the lightweight division. Currently stands at 5'7" and has a reach of 72 inches. Then we move on to the champion. Islam Makhachev has 26 victories, 1 loss to his resume, has 5 victories come away of knockout, 12 submission victories. Currently the reigning defending UFC champion, stands at 5'10" and has a reach of 70 inches. So the height goes in favor of the champion, but the reach goes in favor of the challenger for Arman Tsarukyan. We're going to see if the height and the reach plays into a factor at any part of this fight for the main event of UFC 311. But these are the following game plans that I have for these respective fighters to follow if they want to walk out of UFC 311 with the coveted lightweight title. Starting off with the challenger, Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan's got to win the striking battle. Now, it's going to be tough to win the striking battle against Islam Makhachev, who is a pretty good striker in his own right. But if Arman Tsarukyan wants any chance of defeating Islam Makhachev, he's got to win in the striking department. And I think Arman Tsarukyan has the capability of getting in the inside and landing some significant strikes on Islam Makhachev that could help him win the fight. Whether it's knockout or those significant strikes add up to a possible decision victory. So I'm not saying it's impossible for him not to do this, or I'm not saying that he has to do this in order to win the fight, but I've seen fighters get the better of Islam Makhachev in the exchange categories. Look at Islam Makhachev's previous fight that he had in 2024 against Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is known for being a striker, and Dustin Poirier has that boxing background to his pedigree. And Dustin Poirier was getting the best of Islam Makhachev at times in that fight, landing the cleanest strikes, winning the striking exchange in the counter-punching battle. And I've seen Alexander Volkanovski do that to Islam Makhachev in their first fight against each other. So it's not impossible to catch Islam Makhachev off guard, landing some significant strikes. I think Arman Tsarukyan could do that, and Arman Tsarukyan is a pretty good striker in his own right. So if he could get on the inside and land some significant strikes, that go a big way of him defeating Islam Makhachev. Now next, I think Arman Tsarukyan's got to gain ground control. It's going to be very important for him to gain ground control. I think Arman Tsarukyan is a very dangerous fighter when he's in control of the mount and can land the significant strikes on top in the mount. Look at the work that he did against Charles Oliveira at UFC 300 when they fought. He was pretty good on the ground, had some control, was really good on the mount at times in that fight. And when you look at the tape and you look at his previous fights, Arman Tsarukyan is pretty good on top of the mount, landing some strikes as well. So if he could do that against a very dangerous grappler in Islam Makhachev, I think that the sky's the limit for him to win this fight. And last but not least, Arman Tsarukyan's got to be prepared to swim in the deep waters. You're going into enemy's territory. You're going into a top 3 pound-for-pound star in the UFC in Islam Makhachev. You're going to have to swim into the deep waters, into the championship rounds, round 4, round 5, possibly to win that lightweight title. So he looks cut up. He looks like he's in shape, but you got to have the cardiovascular endurance. You got to tap into that gas tank if you want to win that lightweight title against Islam Makhachev, because we're talking about a fighter that is no stranger to these big moments. Arman Tsarukyan, this is his first UFC main event, and Arman Tsarukyan has only fought in one 5-round fight in his entire UFC career, which he lost that fight in 2022. So Arman Tsarukyan's got to really be prepared for this fight, but those are the game plans that I have for the challenger for Arman Tsarukyan. Now, on to the champion, Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev's got to put the pressure on Arman Tsarukyan. Now, he's got to walk down Arman Tsarukyan and put the pressure on him in this fight. And when you look at the fights that Islam Makhachev has been a part of, he does his best work when he's pressuring his opponents, walking them down. And when he has control of the fight, when he does that and walks his opponents down, that allows them to control, for Islam Makhachev to control the pace of the fight. And that kind of makes his opponents very intimidated or very timid of what Islam Makhachev's going to do next. So I think that's going to be important for him to do. Set the tone of the fight very early. Now next, Islam Makhachev's going to have to out-wrestle Arman Tsarukyan. Now, Arman Tsarukyan is a great wrestler, but he has shown weaknesses at times in the grappling department. Islam Makhachev, that's his bread and butter. 12 victories come away of submission. He's one of the best grapplers that the UFC has to offer. So I think it's very important for Islam Makhachev to win the wrestling exchange. I think Islam Makhachev needs to land the takedowns, gain ground control, land the strikes on the ground, and make Arman Tsarukyan make some mistakes on the ground as well. Which, when you have Arman Tsarukyan on the ground and possibly to get him to make some mistakes, that leads to the final game plan: shoot for some submission. I mean, Islam Makhachev is so damn creative when he's trying to get his opponents to submit. I'm thinking of the ankle pick that he had on Dustin Poirier, which basically set up the finishing sleeper submission hold. There's so many ways that Islam Makhachev could beat you down, submit you. He's diabolical in the grappling department. So if Islam Makhachev can frustrate Arman Tsarukyan on the ground, making him mistakes on the ground for this possibly set up for some finishes in the submission department, I think that goes a long way for Islam Makhachev to defeat Arman Tsarukyan. And look at the guys that Islam Makhachev has submitted. I mean, as recent memory, making submission mistakes: Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier. So, I mean, this is going to be a very tremendous fight. and I'm looking forward to it. But those are the game plans that I have. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev to successfully retain his lightweight title against Arman Tsarukyan. I think he's going to do it by decision in the main event of UFC 311. Now, I believe this will be a competitive fight. I think it's still a 50-50 fight between Arman Tsarukyan and Islam Makhachev. But at the end of the day, I just trust Islam Makhachev's skills. I trust him in the striking department, the grappling department, and I trust him in terms of experience over Arman Tsarukyan, who has only had one 5-round fight since arriving to the UFC. So Islam Makhachev, being the better grappler, I think he's going to take control in the fight, taking the fight to the ground, shooting for a lot of takedowns, gaining ground control on Arman Tsarukyan, try to make him make some mistakes on the ground. And I think Islam Makhachev just could use his experience. I mean, 12 victories come away with submission. You don't get that by accident. He's very creative, very diabolical, setting up for some submission victories. If possible, if Arman Tsarukyan makes some mistakes on the ground, Islam Makhachev could possibly capitalize on that and possibly shoot for a submission victory. But I think it just in a 5-round fight, Islam Makhachev just has the skills in the striking department, the wrestling department, and the experience to gain a big victory and add another impressive victory to his resume, defeating Arman Tsarukyan again, this time to successfully retain his UFC lightweight title, UFC 311. But that is my UFC 311 main event prediction between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan.